answered.
Добрый день. Hello, everyone.
Good afternoon.
In the middle of our global InnoProm Industrial Marathon. We have about 30 online conferences today, and our studios operating in Jakarta, Beijing, Tashkent, Yekaterinburg, Moscow, Cairo, Paris, Berlin, Lima, and Buenos Aires. Let me greet every one of our international audience. And this is the main strategic session of InnoProm. We have invited the titans of the global industry, and we are very thankful to all our speakers for the chance to touch your wisdom and utilize your knowledge and experience. I will try to be a good timekeeper, so please give me more opportunities to ask you more questions. I would be thankful if your answers will fit within 5-6 minutes. Let's start. We are nowadays experiencing the massive recession for 100 years, maybe for the whole history of the global manufacturing. We are hungry for official forecasts from the World Bank, global consultancies, and the government. All of them are flirting with 3 letters, B, U, and L, predicting either fast recovery or long stagnation. And I just read the fresh article of Joseph Stiglitz, a very famous economist. He predicts that recovery will be very, very long. And this scenario is a fantasy. And he also mentions that the consumption models will change dramatically. And manufacturing models will change too. This is Joseph Stiglitz's opinion. And since we have 6 business captains, we cannot skip the chance to start with your own forecast. This will be my first question to our honored speakers, chief executive officers of the global company. Let me introduce them. Jean-Pascal Piquard, Schneider Electric, Klaus Helmrich, Siemens Digital Industries, Marco Camozzi, Camozzi Automation, Christian Knill, Knill Energy Group, and Evgeny Valentinovich Kaspersky, the founder of a Russian global company, Kaspersky. But first of all, I would like to ask Mr. Denis Manturov, the Minister of Industry and Trade of the Russian Federation and head of InnoProm Executive Board, to present his views on global industry recovery, Russian experience, and existing risks and opportunities for the manufacturers. Mr. Manturov.
Dear colleagues, dear participants and guests, I'm happy to welcome you here at our new virtual venue, International Industrial Marathon, InnoProm Online. Earlier in April, we launched this internet project with CEOs of multinational corporations, heads of governmental bodies, and international experts. Became its regular contribution. During the last month, working in this format has become usual for us, and has inspired enthusiasm among our partners with whom we used to meet in Yekaterinburg for many years. Now we have an opportunity to communicate with even broader audience. It's sufficient to say that geography of online attendees of our online marathon covers more than 25 countries. Moreover, every participant is provided with an opportunity to join the conversation and to address a question to any speaker. I think that this mass-targeted approach will contribute additionally to our discussions on the most topical issues of global agenda. Today, the world is in search of compromise between epidemiological restrictions to save lives and people's well-being, which can be achieved only when economy is working at a full pace. And the economy has faced a number of serious challenges: shrinking demand on commodities market and fall in price for oil, gas, metals, and even mineral fertilizers provides risks in connected industries. Though there are forecasts of price recovery already delivered by experts. Reduction in income during the lockdown has led to a crack in the consumption level and resulted in decline in non-food retail, cars, and property sales. However, the economic recovery prevented the further sharp rise in unemployment. It means that consumer sector will face some improvements and recovery of purchasing power. The same trend is in automotive production sector, which depends on the rate of recovery of passengers and cargo transportation. Today, we have also dealt with the challenges that caught all countries off guard in terms of labor division. Most of supply chains and cooperation chains are recovered, or alternative component suppliers have been found. Of course, now it's too early to talk about risk-free environment. However, there are preconditions to avoid a long-term crisis phase. This is what the Global World Bank experts say about. Global economy will shrink by 5%, and it will bounce back next year by 4%. The consequences of this for many regions may vary. Of course, it depends on the capabilities of each country to stand against global challenges. Today, almost all the countries implement certain anti-crisis measures depending on their resources. For instance, we have formed a set of specific anti-crisis measures which are included in the project of National Plan for Economic Recovery. We have no doubts that all these measures will be implemented. In recent years, our country has repeatedly proven its inherent ability for mobilization. Distinguished colleagues, I would also like to draw your attention to the fact of how today's crisis accelerates technological transformations that we have been discussing a lot in the previous years. I think everyone noticed a growth of online trades, not only in food retail, but also in industrial product segments. The remote mode of work, which has been tried and tested, increases the importance of decisions in the fields of industrial internet, automation, and unmanned production. We have been also discussing many times that digital design and technology or digital twins can shorten the process of creation of new products. And today, the ability to respond rapidly changing demand is the most important competitive advantage. All this accelerates the evolution of professions, and even at a faster pace than we expected. I think that speakers, my colleagues of the strategic session, will have an opportunity to discuss these topics in details and professionally, because they deal with it face to face. I will be happy to watch the record of this discussion, as long as unfortunately I have to leave you now to meet with the members of the Federation Council. Dear friends, I wish all of you, all the participants of today's marathon, fruitful work and further success. I kindly ask you not to forget that online format cannot replace the personal communications. That is why we are looking forward to meet you here in Yekaterinburg at traditional trade fair INAPROM next year.
We are joining Minister Manturov and inviting all of you to visit INAPROM in 2027. And so we are asking our speakers, our experts, about your forecast, global recovery, when and how, what will be the drivers and obstacles of the industrial growth. Does it bring maybe new models for manufacturing? And Mr. Jean-Pascal Tricoire, you will be the first, and you have excellent view behind you, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you, Anton. Thank you for having me on this panel. And thanks to Minister Manturov to come and speak to us. Well, it's great to be together with you all. To answer the question, I mean, the recovery in front of us depends a lot about us on the decisions we're going to make. So when we were all facing the COVID crisis at different times, we had to react. And the priority was safety of our employees, of our customers, of our partners, and supporting on helping our customers to have continuity of service. Schneider supply technology to hospitals, to data centers, to manufacturing plants, water networks, critical networks of cities. And the priority was to make sure that we would keep servicing on supporting our customers while they were maybe locked down in their home or remote from their mission critical processes. But the fact is that if we want to recover, we have to go into this new phase where we are already, which is to live with the virus. It's going to take a long time before the virus disappears. So it goes first by making sure that everybody is equipped with the protection equipment which are needed, masks, the right discipline of interaction. And if I look back at the past 3 months, there is one thing which has always won, and Minister Manturov said it, it's digitization. Because digitization was a tool to remote manage everything at a time where people were not allowed to go on spot on the manufacturing shop floor, where they had to socially distantiate, where they had to keep designing new manufacturing plants or new manufacturing systems, but without being able to be physically in the same office. So digitization was absolutely the only way to keep operating our facilities and to keep collaborating together. And with all what I see is that the past period, the past 4 months, have been a massive accelerator of digitization. Schneider provides solutions for energy management on industrial automation. And while we've seen parts of our business going down, especially in new construction, the thing which has accelerated has been everything around digital, and especially the usage of industrial software, if you will, Industry 4.0, around a 3D experience all across the life cycle of the life of industries, from design into building, manufacturing, into commissioning, and very often remote commissioning, and then remote operating the installations. And clearly what we've seen is all the customers accelerating their digital agenda. They had sometimes more time to think and redesign their processes around that, and starting to digitize everything that could be digitized. But think about it. I mean, we were able to make factory acceptance tests from remote using a combination of video, digital design together. We were able to mobilize teams to design plants, factories on a pure 3D digital twin, having those people operating from home or from different countries, but they couldn't travel anymore to meet physically. All of this has happened in real time. Our customers have faced very difficult times. All of them are running mission critical applications, and many of those customers couldn't send their people who were locked down because of rules to the shop floor. They could send their operators on the shop floor with augmented reality kits. They could train them before they go with virtual reality kits. And you have one operator suddenly who can come on the shop floor of a factory and being helped by the best experts wherever they sit, in an office or from home. So digital has been in all aspects. In the way we interact today, we can still have InnoProm from remote. In the way we work together every day, maybe too many teleconferences, but companies have been able to keep going. But more so in the way we operate factories, it has been absolutely instrumental. Now, I still want to insist on one thing. Digitization makes sense, provided you can complement it with a strong interaction with people who go on the field, operators, service operators. So it's really important never to forget that the human dimension remains paramount, and digital is just at the service of people to keep doing business in a different manner. This is what I call at Schneider, business as unusual. We keep doing the same business, but we do it in a different manner from before. So this is what I see, massive acceleration in the use of digitization, and we accompany our customers on their digital agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Tricouart. And I think the word digitalization will be mentioned and pronounced many times during this session today. And I'm sure for many people, digitalization is the answer to the current situation. And I'm happy to ask Mr. Klaus Helmrich from Siemens Digital Industry to present your own view. Mr. Helmrich, please.
Yeah, Arnold, first of all, thank you for the invitation to participate to this panel. Yes, of course, digitalization and automation are more urgent and important than ever for the industrial companies to achieve the necessary flexibility and to adapt to current and future challenges. Companies that had already invested in digitalization were able to better deal with the new circumstances, for example, bringing production down in especially automotive industry or ramping up in, for example, pharmaceutical industries as a short notice. And while we see digital tools and automation technologies now more widely developed than before the crisis, there is still a long way ahead. In industry and infrastructure, we see the dependency on human on-site workers has made continuous operation of critical assets more fragile during times of the pandemic. Due to the reduced possibility to travel and meet in person, all kinds of automation may have been nice to have before the pandemic now become vital and necessary. Being able to perform tasks remotely and digitally without human interface today might be the defining factor to keeping operating running. COVID-19 certainly is the most disruptive pandemic in many decades, but it may not be the last. Therefore, when talking about business recovery and government stimulation programs, it is most important now to invest in sustainable long-term initiatives that make our industry and the infrastructure more resilient and more efficient. I would like to give some examples from the area where Siemens is active in the market. For example, power transmission and distribution. The Russian government has promised to invest more than 200 billion rubles in infrastructure in post-COVID times. If some of this investment is used, for example, to upgrade power distribution grids with modern technologies that requires no service and are easy to install, and the use of digital fully automated substations, this is a sustainable measure as well. Such methods will not only provide work, but also bring high efficiency and reliability for the grids with less dependency on human interaction for many future decades. This service not only grid operators, but all citizens and business in the country. We have proven the value of this smart grid approach for Russian customers, for example, in Energo. The same is true for the industry, enhancing the automation and digitization of our operators, increasing not only the efficiency of production, it also helps to reduce the number of permanently required personnel on the shop floor, and so keeps people safe and healthy during the times of a pandemic. Siemens has a strong and localized footprint in railway business in Russia too. We are leading the German initiative group for developing the high-speed railway Moscow-St. Petersburg, and we are committed to support the Russian government and the Russian railways in signaling, electrification, and rolling stock.
Thank you, Mr. Henrich, and we are very thankful that Schneider Electric and Siemens are long-term participants of INNOPROM, and the top managers from both companies come to our trade show and participate in our business program. And Mr. Marco Camozzi, first of all, hello, and I know you planned to come to INNOPROM first time this year, and on this day, the 7th of July, we would enjoy talking to you on the stage, but life sometimes change our plans. So, Mr. Marco Camozzi, your view on global industry recovery.
Well, Anton, thank you very much for inviting me into this marathon. It's very nice to see that we have very important companies here like Schneider Electric, Siemens, and so on. I have to say that this pandemic changed a lot the way of doing business. I agree. Digitalization was one of the key to keep our business running by using this tool, either conferencing or others. But most importantly, what we did during this pandemic was, and we lived this pandemic already in China in our plant. So somehow we were lucky in Italy because we could adopt immediately security measures before the pandemic arrived strongly. So first of all was put people in security, total security. And by doing that, luckily we have not closed the factories. So this was a big advantage for us. Digitalization is also, in our view, to make more and more intelligent components that can be interconnected, that can speak to each other, and this would help, of course, this new trend in automation. Camozzi is a manufacturer of components for industrial automation, but also for medical equipment, medical devices. And as you can imagine, in this period, we were crazy to answer to the big demands that were coming to us for ventilator, oxygen concentrator, and so forth. And by doing that, luckily, We digitalized our factories some years ago. We started in 2015. So we have quite automated factories with robotized cells and so on. We have a good supply chain with suppliers, which helped us not to stop our production. And through our cyber mess, we were able to run our factories also without people. Regarding the crisis, when it will end, it's difficult to predict. It depends if the pandemic go away, when, we don't know. I don't think that there will be further lockdowns at this moment. I see that in Europe there are some small signs of recovery in certain areas, in certain industry, but I think it will be still a long time before we see the numbers we used to see in 2018 and 19.
Thank you, Mr. Camozzi. I know it's not easy to predict the future, but we prefer to ask captain of business instead of astrologist.
Yeah.
Yes. Mr. Christian Knill, I'm very happy to see you. Last year was the first one when you visited Innopromm, and we are happy to see you again. And we are happy to find out what do you think of the global industry recovery. And please turn on your microphone.
So now you should hear me. So yeah, warm welcome also from my side. It's a great honor to be in this, yeah, you call them titans. I call them very big companies. We as Knill Group, we are just a small or medium-sized company here in Austria, mainly in the energy business. So with some components for the transmission and the distribution of energy, and also in some machines for producing cable and wires and batteries. When we discuss about the recovery or generally about the pandemic itself, we see, you just showed the World Bank is expecting a 5% decline for this year. In my personal opinion, I think this is very optimistic. We see, or we think that it could be, yeah, more here in Austria. And I think we are not so much hidden by the virus as maybe other countries, but we expect even here a decline of 7%. So that's, I think that the World Bank, as I said, is quite optimistic. And when we calculate the 7% and we think then that we, or the forecasts say that we can increase the business by 2021 by around 4%. So the minimum we will take until 2022, minimum in my opinion, that we recover to the figures we had in 2019. When you talk also to doctors or to the medicines, I mean, if you talk with 5 doctors, you get 6 opinions. But generally what we see is we will not have any medicine against this virus earliest in 2021. They are even, and that's the most optimistic view I have heard up to now. So, and so I fully also think that it's, we have to live with the virus. We cannot wait until we have something, we have to live with it. Just coming back a little bit to Austria. Austria is, of course, quite dependent on exports. 55% of our industry goes to exports. So the point is in this pandemic situation is also that it's not just dependent how your country is recovering. It's dependent how, let's say, the whole export partners and how the whole world recovers. I mean, the pandemic is in 188 countries, so it's a worldwide virus we have. And so for us, it's also very important how Germany, France, Italy, US, all these countries are recovering. And also these countries think that the GDP is going down by 7%, for example, in Germany. France, as we have some French colleagues here, I think they also have 7.2% also on decline in 2020. So it will take time. Coming back to the digitalization, I think a lot is already said. I think it can help to recover. The point is, of course, you have to be, or you should have been prepared already for this pandemic, if you like, because in general, digitalization is an investment you have to do, and the earlier you have started this investment, the better are the chances now to come out of this crisis now. So those companies who have not invested in digitalization in the past, I think they will have a problem now or in the future. And what we also think when we ask also other companies here in Austria, at least, I do not think that we have a V shape so that it will recover very fast. We will have I would say, a long U shape coming up with the business, and so the reduction of costs or people will come in my opinion in the fourth quarter of 2020, because we have, at least here in Austria but also in Germany, we have some recovery programs from the government which helps you to keep the employees or the people in the jobs. So yeah, and I mean, it was also a question if automatization and digitalization is against human beings, let's say. And I think also the other speakers said it also, it's very important that we have the sufficient staff to have all this or to use the digitalization in the manner that we can.
Mr. Neil,
too long. Sorry.
Special area. We would like to discuss it separately, and I'm very happy to greet Evgeny Valentinovich Kaspersky, the founder of the global Russian company Kaspersky and big friend of Innoprome. Evgeny Valentinovich, your view on the global industry recovery. I think there is no country in the world where people don't know your brand.
Okay, thank you. And hello, everybody. And if my Russian name is too strong to you, so you may just call me Eugene. That's it. It's very simple. Speaking about how much time you need to get back to normal and how much time it will take to recover. Well, I'm optimistic, and I think that to get back to normal, it will take exactly the same time as our time during the pandemics. So I think that I'm sure that say in few years from now we will ask each other like, do you remember that crazy 2020? And actually, I have a proof. If you want to know, if you want to see the future, just have a look at your past. And actually, it's not the first pandemic, and the previous one, which was also not so strong, not as bad, but anyway, that was a Hong Kong flu. Exactly 50 years ago, in 1969, 68, 69, it was global pandemic. And how much did it damage the global economy? Yes, it did. But how much time we had to recover and get back to normal? I guess it was quite soon. So I think that we will get back to normal very, very soon after the vaccine is invented. Everyone has an injection. Everyone has an antivirus, not the cyber, but biological. And everything will be fine. And even I think it's even there positive. It's accelerator. So this time is a kind of accelerator for many industries. Well, our customers, especially industrial customers, which we're talking to, we recognize that they pay much more attention and allocate more resources on cyber. So they, well, of course, it's not the news. Actually, they were on this way for a long time. But this, the hard time of this pandemic, it's an accelerator for them. So they, well, it's a crisis. And during the crisis is bad, but also it's a good because what doesn't kill us make us stronger. So you have to be smarter. You have to sleep less and work more. And many companies, industrial companies, they are on this way. So there was a very like this definition of Industry 4.0, which is cyber. So many industries, they want to invest more into their remote controls, the more automatization, and being more cyber. So that's this is the positive trend for many years already, and now it's a time when it's just acceleration for this process. But well, please don't forget that I am speaking from the cybersecurity point of view, and when I see this the SCADA system, when I see the more industrial systems connected to the internet, of course I say, okay, guys, how much do you think, how much you're aware of the cybersecurity issues? Because there are many industries, many businesses were badly damaged by this pandemic, but not the cybercrime. The cyber criminals, they work from home. They did work from home, they do, and they will stay at home, hacking the victims online. And actually we have the statistics, and these statistics just present us that we see that the hackers' activities is like from 10 to 25% more than before. In March and April, it was like rising up. Then in May, got down. We still don't understand why. We don't know why cyber criminals, they were not so active during the May this month. I think they didn't celebrate the Labor Day. but now they get back to this plus 10, plus 25% activities. And we also have the increasing number of reports of attacks on industrial systems.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Kaspersky. We would like to return to when we talk about digitalization and the new threats, and thank you for the ocean of positive thinking from Eugene Kaspersky, and also some speakers today. They are from huge companies with the armies of employees. There are some companies of medium size, but there is one common thing: they're all global companies working not only in their homeland, but in all the continents. That's why we start talking about globalization, which seemed to be the path chosen by the majority of the world business elite. But it found to be not so determined maybe 2-3 years ago, when many big manufacturers started returning their manufacturing from abroad to their home countries. And the pandemic made selfish economic interests of companies and countries even more visible. Many global supply chains were damaged, and self-isolation and self-sufficiency has been declared as the new approach for manufacturers in many countries. However, even before the crisis, some advanced manufacturers saw some new opportunities of going against the trends of globalization. Instead of placing manufacturing units in the countries with cheap labor or cheap resources and delegating manufacturing of components to thousands of contractors, they, and I might use the example of Tesla with their Giga factory, they organized the whole manufacturing process at huge space in one place and locating it not in the hundreds miles away, but close to their R&D center in the country with the most expensive labor force. So my question is, do you believe that deglobalization and self-sufficiency will be the new trend for manufacturing instead of going global? Mr. Kamotsi, your company operates in all the continents, and your manufacturing facilities are located in Italy, Russia, Ukraine, China. Does the new reality make you changing your global approach and looking for new business models?
Yes and no. What I mean, our factories we have, like you mentioned, in Russia, in China, and in other countries, were not made with the aim to have a cheaper labor cost. It was aimed mainly to be close to our customers, so to service them in a faster way. Our main plant, obviously, is in Italy. We started in Russia in 1991, so it was not really the best period to start, but what we see is that our success, for example, in Russia, is due to be there in the market, close to our customers, servicing them, listening to them, and help them to increase their technology, their factories, their machineries, and so on and so forth. I believe that the Tesla you mentioned is a good approach. We are doing the same in Italy, of course. Also because today there are not many countries where you have cheap labor cost. Maybe Africa in the near future, but still I think there are some different problems there. So the other thing to be global and local, I like to call it local, it's now, you know, there are some also wars commercial wars between countries. We know trade and so on. Localization is what our customers ask us, especially in Russia, because if a country is put in sanctions, the supply chain will suffer a lot. So localization is where we are investing more and more in the future.
Thank you, Mr. Kamotsi. Eugene Kaspersky, Evgeny Valentinovich, I wonder if the world will go global, continue going global, or stop going global. But one more additional question specifically for you. Your business started many years ago from protecting personal computers. And then Kaspersky moved to the new area, protecting not PCs, but industrial controllers, from pure IT to industrial automation system security. And you invested a lot into this area during recent years. Since global industry will be definitely slowing down, maybe for a short period, maybe not, is it still your priority, industrial sector? Or are you looking closer to the other areas, such as telecom, city solutions, and so on? Eugene Kaspersky.
Thank you for this. It's a very good question. And actually, that's cybersecurity is one of the things which are not really badly affected by this pandemic. Well, the simple explanation. There could be the supermarket closed or boutique shop closed. There are no staff in the shop. There are no customers, but security is still there. So we are in the cybersecurity, so it really didn't affect our business. And what we see for speaking with our customers, the industrial sector, the factories, well, the industries, they invest more and more into cyber, and they have a security in mind. So still our focus is developing the new systems with cybersecurity for Internet of Things, for industrial systems. And cyber immunity, but it's a long story, but this is a new concept. Security is not enough for industrial systems. We have to implement the cyber immunity. Like, you know, that security is a mask on your face. Immunity is like injection. That's the difference. And speaking about globalization or deglobalization, once again, I'm optimistic, and I think that we will still live in a global world, but there will be more and more demand on having some parts or some critical components of the global systems in a local environment. Let me explain in such a way. I try to find the best explanation. What's the difference with the existing world we are living in and the previous one before cyber? The difference is that years ago, if you buy a car, you own the car. If you buy the car now, who owns the car? Yes, you, partly. And also the vendor, which is connected to your car through the internet. Same with industrial systems, same with Internet of Things, same with your private life, with your urban life, with the traffic in the city, with many other stuff, and industrial systems as well. So the data is becoming as critical as the power grid. So if there's no power in the power lines, it's the end of the world. If there's a collapse with the cyber systems, the same, it's the end of the world. So I think that the future is that we will still stay in a global world, but there are companies which provide the technologies and solutions. They have to open some kind, we call it transparency centers. So we allocate our technologies in the regions, in the countries which pay more attention to the cybersecurity. I'm speaking about cybersecurity. So we allocate our technologies in these regions. So in case of any question, any problem, they can open the box and see what's inside. So I guess this is the new standard for many other industries. So if you want to be the global vendor, if you provide the critical systems, technologies, critical products, you have to open the transparency center or some kind of that in the country to have your technologies available by request or in any other way. So in this way, we will keep the world global and local at the same time. I guess this is a challenge. This is a challenge for many industries, but I think this is the most optimal way. Well, is it possible to do that? Yes, we do. So we have the transparency centers in Switzerland, in Spain. We were going to announce opening the transparency center in Brazil, and that was the flight which was canceled. And in Kuala Lumpur, and we have plans for others. So this is the way how to stay as a global company within the world which have more demand on localization. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kaspersky. Very good answer. Mr. Knil, you are also a global company because you have production facilities in Europe and Asia. Do you plan to change your approach and globalization? And one more specific question for you. Energy is a core business for Knil Group, but energy consumption will be going down due to many reasons, and the pandemic is only one of them. So does it make you changing your business model and your plans? Christian Knil.
Yeah, first of all, we are not we have no plans to change our globalization, let's say. What we saw is that, let's say we make it similar, that on the one side we go to India, for example, or Thailand, because the demand there is quite bigger than in Austria, for example, as a small country. And the second thing is that we go also to countries because of lower costs. You mentioned earlier that Germany is expensive. I would say Austria is minimum the same expensive. So we have to do some products in low-cost countries, to be honest. We have products, so we have not a mass product. So our customers demand from single, so one unit up to maximum, I would say 1,000 or 10,000 units. So automatization and therefore, yeah, using less people and using the machines is not so easy in the parts or the product lines we have. Coming back also to the general ones, I don't think that we cannot stop globalization. I think the other speakers have also said the same. But we have the globalization, which we cannot stop, but we have more and more demands from countries to localize much more. You see this very much now in Southeast Asia. You see it a long time already in Brazil. You see it, yeah, even here in Austria, we discuss now that some products we have to, or let's say in Europe, we realized in the pandemic now situation that we would like to produce medicine, for example, or pharmaceutical products in Europe in future, not getting imported everything from, or most of the things of China and India. But this takes time, in my opinion, and will not change the situation quite fast. And what we also have in European Union, we have a investment control law now already, I think since last year or something, which in some cases is quite important, so that you protect more or less important infrastructure, for example, like the energy network or traffics or even health is under this investment control. But I think we have to also here, we have to see it globally. If we would like to have it in the other way around also, we have to think that not everything goes then in this investment control law. Because I think we all would like to grow our businesses in general, and therefore we cannot or should not reduce our possibilities in future also.
Thank you, Mr. Knill. Mr. Helmrich, we are observing the picture, and we saw how many factories in China, which is the factory of the world, stopped producing, closed the gates. And may I ask you, did you and Siemens experience disruption of the global supply chains? And does it make you to revise your approach to your global operations to ensure availability of your products and technologies to your clients? Mr. Helmrich?
Yeah, so thank you for the question. So Siemens has a clear strategy that we are as close as possible to our customers. Therefore, it's clear that we have a strong regional setup and a support structure in place, including Russia. So for example, we've been doing business 117 years in Russia with 20 locations, with own sales and service departments, with distributors and with system integrators. So we are part of the business inside Russia. When it comes to the question about how we can secure our supply chain, we are using also, I would say, new technologies so that we can use the transparency in the supply chain to get all the necessary product components at the right time, at the right place into our factories. And to do this, it is important that you have, of course, a clear picture about the local demand. And especially you have a strong network in place, including, I would also repeat, this security and cybersecurity aspects, that you make sure that you get your data, and with the data you have the transparency what you have to deliver on site to the customer. It is also important that you have a local team in place which gives the relevant service to the customers. And to do this, we offer a lot of also tools to help the customer, especially the customer by himself, to organize their own interactions with the suppliers. For example, our product data management platform, Teamcenter, includes modules, software modules, for full digital management of the supply chain of the customers. And we strongly believe that the combination at the end is the winning formula. The combination between a strong local setup with a professional management of the supply chain and including automation, digitalization with an integrated cybersecurity element. This is what we are doing.
Thank you, Mr. Helmrich. And we're asking Mr. Jean-Pascal Tricoire, global companies like Schneider Electric keep this world together. And there are definitely the countries where it is more comfortable to run business or less comfortable to run business. And the risks are also different everywhere. I wonder, does the global management system for you as the CEO of Schneider Electric is getting even more complex in these new conditions? Is there any new trends of managing so huge and complicated systems like a global company, Schneider Electric? Because one size doesn't fit all, does it? Mr. Tricoire. Microphone, please.
Thank you. That's better. Yeah, I think my colleague spoke about many of the topics. Of course, it's probably more complicated to serve the world today, but we have many more tools than before. And especially that condition of transparency on digital collaboration between all the sites is something that was not existing before. So to come back to the question of globalization or deglobalization, I would answer the same thing as Marco Camozzi, saying probably a bit of both. We see a world going into a multi-local configuration. But I don't believe that globalization will disappear because some technologies are just emerging from one part of the world, and we create innovation from the combination of technologies. Also, one of the big support of globalization are the people, the consumers, because the consumers with all digital communication, they want the best in the world at a point in time. So they want to be able to source the best product at any time. So all of this is going into one direction. At the same time, we see a strong movement to regionalization. And I would say it's not a new thing. At Schneider, we've never believed in a pure global world. We have 200 factories, very local, 100 distribution centers to supply very adapted solution to our customers. The first reason why we've been from the beginning designing our supply chain in a local manner, it's time to the market of mass customization of our systems. Our customers want more and more something different for themselves, on something which was available, I would say, the day before yesterday. They are always more demanding in terms of supply. So those are two engines for one, localization, and second, digitization, because you can connect directly to the need of the customer. The second point, which is really accelerating in terms of need, is sustainability, low carbon emission, resource performance of your supply chain. And you cannot be performing in sustainability if you have long supply chains. So you need to be very local. If you're at Schneider, we have committed to be carbon neutral by 2025. The first condition to do that is to have short supply chains. The third reason, frankly, and it's really powerful, I mean, if you want to have a performing company, you need to have engaged communities around you. A company can succeed only if the society is benefiting from what the company is doing. And you have to do it at the local level. So one of the reasons that motivates us to be very, very local is that we have local suppliers, we employ local people, we work with local partners, integrators, because the society, the countries where we operate must benefit from what we are doing. And finally, beyond the local communities, it's also participating to the country priorities, participating to the thought processes. So we employ, for instance, in Russia, several thousand people, but we also participate into think tanks to think about the future of sustainability and manufacturing and industry in the country. Now, this regionalization, as was said several times, will happen in places where maybe the costs are higher or the labor is not as much available as before. And therefore, it's another push for digitization and automation that supports really everything I said: customization, direct link with the customer, capacity to articulate local and global, because the future of supply chain is a transparent supply chain. It's a supply chain where you can share data and where you can get the best of all the collective effort of everybody around the world, manage global, but in a very multi-local manner.
Thank you, Mr. Tricouart. And our third topic for today is the manufacturing triangle, humans, software, and machines. And since I am not a socially responsible CEO of a global company, I can be a little bit more flexible in wording. Would you agree that the pandemic demonstrated that humans are the most vulnerable, most fragile, and maybe the weakest element of this triangle? I'm sure that many of you already answered hundreds of questions if automation and digitalization will finally eliminate humans from the manufacturing process. And my question, does pandemic help to encourage this process? Do you see the changing role of automation and digitalization in the nearest future? Mr. Helmrich, may I ask you to be the first answering this question?
Yes, I strongly believe that humans will continue definitely to be an important part in industry and in innovation. Just the operation of a production site or a complex product might not always, but this is the point, requires a physical presence or the direct and immediate interaction. So Siemens offers for that a wide range portfolio to ensure that the delivery and the operation of a product independently of the presence is possible. Let me give you a few examples in Russia. For example, remote support to a ball mill, very wide in Russia located. And with this remote access, we can bring together competencies around the world to help when a failure is happening. So we can add additional knowledge and skills from Germany or from Austria or from wherever to maintain this mill. It is also important that we can have in place a concept for this digitalization where we cover with the portfolio all triangles, the automation aspect, the software tools, the integrated connectivity to the cloud, and the integrated IT security aspects, and put everything into the digital world by using this digital twin so that we be able to design a product in the digital world, optimize it, and then hand it over to the production, but also we can simulate every step in the production before we go into the real operation. And with this combination, I'm sure that automation and digitization is a winning factor and formula in the future. But one thing is clear, that human beings are in the center of what we are doing, but we can, with automation and digitization, help to give a high, I would say, environment where we can take care about their safety and their security in the environment, in a factory or in an office place.
Thank you very much, Mr. Henrich. Mr. Tricouart, is the role of humans in human software and machines, these roles, are they changing? Are we really the weakest or the most important element of this triangle? Mr. Tricouart.
I think everything we design should make sure that humans remain the most important part of the chain. In terms of creativity, in terms of organization, our notion or our vision of digital and automation is really centered on people. So I don't think we should speak about elimination of jobs. There will be some, but more so about transformation of jobs. And when you look at what digital does every day, it is first to augment the capabilities of people, giving them the Googles or the tablets or the phones so that they can go on site and be assisted from remote to go straight on the right place, on the right machine, and not to take any risk on where they are doing things. The second thing is really, rather than augmenting, it's about supporting human beings. One thing that we have really discovered during the COVID crisis is the very high importance of resiliency. I mean, we were taking for granted that electrical networks would work, or that hospitals could welcome as many sick people as possible. And suddenly the crisis hit, and the network operators had to manage residential consumption going up, industry consumption going down. Hospitals had to receive suddenly many, many patients. And I would take one example in Ekaterinburg. Schneider has completely digitized the main medical center. And that, of course, that kind of digitization has been helping people managing the hospital not to repair a breakdown, but to anticipate that there could be a risk of a breakdown and anticipate before the problems are happening. I could cite many other manufacturing facilities in Russia and other places where digitization supports people in doing the job differently on preventing that problems happen, because the worst in a factory is when the problem has already happened. It's already too late. It's panic on board, right? The third point, Richie, really that where digitization is helping a lot, it's collaboration. Before you were in a shop floor, in front of a machine, in front of one factory, and you couldn't learn very much because your environment was fixed by your direct environment and your capacity to go maximum one factory. Today, as everything is connected, you can benchmark yourself, you can compare, you can collaborate, you can get the expertise of Schneider, of our best experts wherever they are in the world, of the integrators that has worked on this specific factory, and we can all share and work together as if we would be in that place. So I see more digitization as an augmentation of possibility, which asks for transformation of the business and the trade and the capability of our people. Hence, I believe the shared responsibilities that we have between companies, education, governments, rather than fearing the future, is to prepare our people for the future. And we know the technologies of the future because our job is to innovate. There are many of those technologies where there is no training in our engineering centers and in our technical centers. Therefore, at Schneider, we have multiple collaboration, not only with universities, a lot with vocational schools, to train young kids to do the job in a factory in a different manner, using to its full potential all the digital. So that's an optimist probably answer, but I really believe, and we apply it at Schneider. We have been ranked this year actually as #4 supply chain in the world, because our supply chain is human-centered, but using to its fullest digitization, not to replace human, not to robotize human, but to give people more capabilities.
Mr. Tricouart, may I check, is there any final limit for digitalization, the ultimate limit of automation and digitalization? I always thought that this limit is no humans manufacturing. Am I right or not?
I say you're wrong. Hopefully you're wrong. We need people and the interaction of digital tools and people to keep pushing the envelope. And you know, we speak a lot about digitization, but when you think about it, automation has been with us for a long time already. But software, cloud, Internet of Things are brand new technologies. So we are in manufacturing where we were in the Internet 20 years ago when we started to use it in people-to-people communication. So it's just the beginning of a long journey, and it's for our creativity together to invent new possibilities.
Thank you, Mr. Tricouart. And my question to Eugen Kaspersky, as an expert in security, would you agree that not humans, but maybe the total digitalization is exactly what makes manufacturing really fragile? And we wonder if there are some new risks and challenges appeared in the industrial world that you and your colleagues register now. Mr. Kaspersky.
Yeah, and well, first of all, I want to thank grand merci to Jean-Pascal. You're the first to speak about education, which is critically important right now, because when I speak about humans, well, machines and Homo sapiens, actually Homo sapiens don't disappear, but just still less workers and more engineers. So this is not triangle, as I mentioned in the very beginning. It's like a two poles, like the machines and education. So that's why well, actually, we're working in cybersecurity, but actually we are moving a little bit behind cybersecurity. So we have the projects with industrial customers, with the heavy industries, to adapt the machine learning machine learning systems to the industrial processes, to technological processes, to recognize, to predict the quality of the products, to optimize the production, well, to reduce the costs and to see the invisible problems, many things which are actually the human eyes, they can't see, but the machine learning system, they do. So actually, this is the future. This is the next steps in, well, I think all the industries. So in short, the humans, they don't disappear. We simply need more engineers, and we need to train kids for the software engineering, for mathematics, starting from very early stage. Actually, what in Russia we do, but not in many countries. So I believe this is the future. And actually, we have with our technological partners, with our customers, we even have the joint education projects which are local. So it's not, I'm in Moscow and our HQ is in Moscow, but it's not in Moscow, in other cities in Russia. So we have a joint technological universities. So we are working with that. And this is actually the key focus. If I speak about the future, if I speak about industries 4.0 and then 5.0, education is critically important. We need more brains, maybe less hands and more brains. And don't forget about cybersecurity, because the brains, they're good and they're bad at the same time. So actually, the more cyber we implement at the industrial part. So unfortunately, the more bad guys they want to hack us. So when we design the system, actually, what our partners, they have benefits from us. So we provide both the machine learning, these automation systems, and at the same time the cyber security and cyber immunity. So we guarantee that actually we can use these systems and being absolutely safe. And once again, maybe it's the fifth time I'm speaking about the same. We need more brains, we need more trainings, we need more education, and we need to have more partners and maybe joint project, joint universities for our future needs. So that's why this is it's critically important. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kaspersky. Mr. Knil, what is your opinion? Who is the weakest chain in manufacturing? Is this chain digital or human? Mr. Knil.
Human, simple answer. I mean, I think two main words have already been said, transformation and education. That's, for me, the most important things you just mentioned. Already in the early 70s, there was a fear of losing jobs because of automatization at that time. When you look, for example, the highest robot intensity we have worldwide is South Korea. When you look on their employment rates, they are still high, so they have not lost any people. So people will remain even in automatization, I think also with digitalization. But what is very important and already mentioned by Mr. Tricoire is the transformation. So we have to, we will not need any more or not so much workers in future, as Mr. Kaspersky said. We'll have ICTs or other skills which we need. The question in that place is, can we bring all the, let's say, workers or people who are not having the skills up to at the moment, can we bring them to the level which we need in future? And here, very important are and is the education system we have in each and every country. And what we see is, as for example, here in Austria, our education system is very, so it takes a long time until you have new plans in schools or something like this. That's why more and more companies are trying to, let's say, educate their people on their own, especially on ICT skills and these things, because until you get that from the schools or even universities, it will take too long. And we have to react very fast. We have to even react faster. So the biggest issue I see is that we have to make our education system much faster. We have to be open also there for what we need in the future. And if this is not happening, the companies have to do more and more in these fields as they have already started.
Mr. Kamotsi, who is the weakest chain?
No, I agree with all the speakers. I mean,
very wise way to agree with all the speakers.
Sorry?
Very wise to agree with everyone.
No, because everyone said the right thing according to what they see, what they live every day. Especially now, Mr. Knil explained about the school. Yes, it's very important because schools are yet too slow to respond to the needs of industry or business. So in our case, for example, we started the Kamotsi Academy internally to teach and train people linked with university, with technical institutions, because it's vital. People needs to have more brain, less hands, because with the advent of robotics, automation, of course, a lot of processes will change, have already been changed in many factories. I'm sure that also Schneider and Siemens, they are very well equipped in automation. In one of our plant here in Italy, we have 500 people, 180 robots. And we will add 100 more robots in the next 2 years. So a robot alone doesn't work. Someone needs to program it. So people have to do better jobs, less hands. For example, there was the first cobot we planned 2 years ago. This is a good example. There was a lady putting 4 screws in an aluminum block. Every day, 8 hours a day, this job for 10 years. Okay. When we put a cobot to do that, she was only doing the testing and controlling the new cell. She was the most happy lady, and she still has a job. So we need trained people to do the future jobs, because it's becoming more and more demanding in terms of brain.
Thank you, Mr. Camozzi. If I may share my own view, yes, humans, we can be infected by viruses apart from software and machines. But if I'm infected, I can be easily replaced by, there are many people around me now. We are not so productive as robots and not so precise and fast like the software, but we are 7,000 years old, our civilization, and I think we experienced thousands of catastrophes and crises, and we learn from it, and getting stronger and stronger after each failure. Gentlemen, from the bottom of my heart, I'm so thankful to all of you for sharing your thoughts with us. I wish all of you and our audiences to keep your health and brain in the perfect shape. And we continue our marathon. We will be linked very soon to Paris, Berlin, Lima, and Buenos Aires. And I'm particularly thankful to our speakers for outstanding time management, because this is always the problem for big conferences, but all CEOs participating in this session were absolutely ideal in time management. And we really appreciate the time you spent with us. We invite you to INNOPROM, to Yekaterinburg, for 2021, and for all our audiences, stay with us. Thank you very much. INNOPROM Marathon will continue till the late evening today. Thank you very much, gentlemen.